Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. And today guys, we're going to be continuing our AFL 2023 3-game match reviews, reviewing the first 3 games of round 6 of the 2023 AFL season. And those games are Fremantle vs Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide vs West Coast and GWS vs Brisbane. Alright, so there was no Thursday night footy to begin round 6. It was Friday night footy, and it was Fremantle versus Western Bulldogs in what looked to be quite an exciting matchup at Optus Stadium. Fremantle with the home ground, home crowd advantage, put on a shocking performance. They put on a couple of shocking performances last year in these Friday night fixtures, and well, their Friday night fixture at Optus Stadium hoodoo seems to be going on, and not a lot of people thought this would be the case, a Friday night footy hoodoo at Optus, but I don't know. It's a little thing which is happened for a couple games for the Dockers, and it's a concerning sign for Fremantle as well. They got thumped by 49 points, 10-9, 69 to 17, 16, 118. Dogs absolutely smashed them out of the park, even since that first quarter. Their pressure was good, and both sides, especially the Western Bulldogs in that first quarter, missed some really easy opportunities. However, in the end, though, they did get going. And once they got going, they really did get going. This is their best performance of the year, no doubt about it. And yes, they've beaten some decent sides like Brisbane and Richmond, but this is definitely the best win. Everything was just clicking perfectly for the Dogs. It was a massive win as well. This is a really good win. Previously in their wins, there's been one player that's really stood up, or 2 players. This time it was the whole team, and Rory Lobb also gave a bit to his old side as well. First quarter, 3 goals 7 for the Western Bulldogs. They just asserted dominance, and then from there on, it was a very even second quarter. In the third quarter, the Dockers still were trying to hang on, and in that last quarter, 1 goal to 5, and that's where the Dogs blew the game out to win pretty comfortably. 35 disposals for Treloar and Sarong, 3 goals for Norton, Williams, 148 fantasy for Bontempelli, who again, he is on track for definitely finishing well in that Brownlow medal. 1st to 5th, definitely, I reckon, for Bontempelli. He's having a great year so far. He's stood up in all 3 of their wins. He's really gotten them back on the right track. And 11 tackles for Andrew Brayshaw. AFL Fantasy, 148 for Bontempelli to go with his 2 goals, 31 disposals, 6 marks, 10 tackles. That's another real true captain's performance for Marcus Bontempelli. He has led by example in their 3 wins. He's been absolutely amazing, and as I said before, he has been the one to get them back on the track. 129 fantasy for English, 119 for Ryan, 114 for Sarong, 112 for Darcy and Treloar. 3 goals for Norton and Williams, 2 for Frederick, Sturt, Treloar, Bontempelli. 1 goal, 3 for Lobb and Waitman. So they both did have their chances in front of goals, but in the end it didn't cost them, luckily enough for the Western Bulldogs. 35 disposals for Sarong, Treloar, 31 for Bontempelli, 30 for Ryan, 29 for McRae, 26 for Brodie. We'll go to marks, 10 for Ryan and Newell-Hagan, 7 for Jones, tackles 11 for Brayshaw, 10 for Bontempelli, 8 for Liberatore, hit-outs, 53 for Darcy, who smashed Tim English, 34, but Tim English, it was a very interesting ruck battle, as we saw on the night, with both of, English kicked a goal, and so did Darcy, so did Jackson. So they all got all in about it, did the ruckman, and then 5 hit-outs for Lobb and Norton. We'll go to team stats now, and inside 50s, 45 to 60, they dominated. In that area did the Western Bulldogs. Let's see anything else. 42 to 43 clearances, 15 to 12 centre for the Dockers, 27 to 31 stoppage for the Western Bulldogs. Not much else at the moment. 8 to 16 marks inside 50. At times, it was just a little bit too easy for the Western Bulldogs inside 50. They did lead for most of the game. Ever since that first quarter where they really put on dominance, you can really see the scoring shots as well. It was 19 to 33. That's a big domination. The Western Bulldogs had this game under their belt for the whole thing. Alright, now to the Saturday matchups. Port Adelaide versus West Coast at the Adelaide Oval. And Port Adelaide 16-13, 109, beat West Coast 10-9, 69 by 40 points in the end. It was a good performance by the Power, but also very close enough, though, for West Coast. They actually bounced back pretty well, I felt, West Coast. They actually played pretty well. I still thought they played well enough to only lose by 40. I mean, they probably could have done a little bit better, but West Coast aren't on the greatest of tracks at the moment. Their performances over the last couple of weeks have shown a little bit of fight. they've looked different, West Coast, to say the least. It was a very even first quarter. West Coast probably did have the better first quarter as well, I thought. The second quarter, just like last week, that's where they dropped the game. They dropped it to the Cats in the second quarter, and they just let the power go away in the second quarter as well. Third and fourth quarters were relatively even from halftime. The Eagles kicked 7 goals. Port Adelaide also kicking 7 goals. So it was very even throughout the rest of the game. It was a 36-point lead at halftime. For the Power, 40-point lead by the end of the game. So you can see that it was quite back and forthy for the rest of the game after Port Adelaide did threaten to take it out even further at the start of that third quarter. But again, the Eagles just lost it in that second quarter. That's where they've struggled this year. They need to try and get through that first half. After half-time, they have looked actually all right. So, yeah, West Coast, they've actually bounced back. They've looked okay in the past couple of weeks. I can't say they've looked excellent because they haven't, but they've looked all right. I feel like from where West Coast are at and where they've been expected to be, they've actually been all right. Tim Kelly, 34 disposals. Talk about his year. He has had a great year, Tim Kelly. He has had a great year, and we've waited for him when moving from Geelong. We've waited for him to have a year, like a consistent bit of footy. He's put up a nice block of it so far, and hopefully for him and for the West Coast and their supporters that this does continue, that Tim Kelly can have great games every week. He could definitely be in there running for a best and fairest award at the club. 5 goals for Jeremy Finlayson, 133 fantasy for Rosie, 10 tackles for William Drew. AFL fantasy, 133 for Rosie, 123 for Drew, 104 for Gaff, 101 for Burns, Jones and Williams. Williams got jobs done everywhere. 5 goals for Finlayson, 4 goals for Cully, 2 for Allen, Burton, Rosie, Rioli, Darling and Burn-Jones. 34 disposals for Kelly, 32 for Gaff, 29 for Rosie, 25 for Butters, Drew Wines. Marks, 10 for Barras, Waterman, 8 for Hunt. Tackles, 10 for Drew, 8 for Jinby, 7 for Darcy Burn-Jones, Rosie. Hit-outs, 37 for Williams, 34 for Teakle. It was a very interesting ruck battle because both these two are unexperienced rucks. Williams definitely did have the upper edge. He has been pretty decent in the absence of Nick Nanui. 5 hit-outs for Finlayson, 4 for Waterman, 1 for the debutant Ollie Lord, who did get a goal in his first game, and 1 for Darling as well. Team stats now, 59 to 48 inside 50, so it wasn't a big domination in that part of the ground for Port Adelaide, but they did get the job done by 11. West Coast, believe it or not, had more disposals as well, 342 to 380, 139 to 184 handballs. When they went up the corridor that one time as well, they actually looked really good going up the corridor, did West Coast. But like any team, that's where you break the game open. Not much looking interesting at the moment. I think clearances were relatively even, 41-42 in favour of West Coast, 11 to 14 out of the centre. So they did actually get on top in that area a couple times, resulting to them winning it. 14 to 11 marks inside 50 in favour of Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide did lead for most of the game, definitely deserved winners in the end, but West Coast, they've put up a couple of very valuable efforts in the past couple of weeks. Alright, now to the game which just finished up at Manuka Oval between the Giants and the Lions. GWS 13-9-87 defeated Brisbane 16-12. GWS 13-9-87 lost to Brisbane 16-12-108. Brisbane won by 21 in the end. And it was a very good performance there from the Lions. And for the Giants, it's not all doom and gloom for them. 21-point loss to one of the Premiership contenders isn't too bad. And they haven't been smashed by any side this year. They've played some sides like Carlton and the Lions. They've played decently well against them. They've only lost in margins that are under 25 points in both of those games. So they've played pretty well. There's definitely some fight about the Giants. And they were in this game for most of it and always crept back once the Lions got out to a lead. However, in the end, they couldn't creep back enough to take the lead over, though. But from the first 2 quarters, very good quarters. The first quarter was a Lion-dominant quarter. That's where the Lions started off really well, 2-3. The second quarter was more of a shootout. Both sides really did show what they are made of. In the third quarter, it was 5-4, so again, very even. This patch here, though, from the mid part to the end of the quarter, was where both sides were relatively impressive. The Lions kicked a few goals in a row. The Giants' ability to skip back and come back was great. Their ability to skip and come back was great. And then again, the last quarter, 2 goals to the Lions started off, 2 goals back for the Giants. It was a 3-2 quarter. The Giants did win it. However, It wasn't enough to get them over the line. Josh Kelly, 41 disposals, 7 goals for Charlie. I mean, he is just outrageous. Charlie Cameron, 7 goals. He is in prime form at the moment. 135 fantasy for Cornelio, 8 tackles for Cornelio. But Charlie Cameron, his speed is what makes him such a valuable asset and such a great player, such a weapon. 135 fantasy for Cornelio, 125 for Kelly, 108 for Cameron, 98 for Toby Green, 97 for Daniel Rich, 95 for Brent Daniels, 7 goals, 2 for Cameron, which I believe equals the record for goals at Manuka Oval ever. 4 goals for Daniels, made a very nice name for himself. 3 goals for O'Halloran, 2 for Gunston, Green, Hipwood and Hogan. Disposals, 41 for Kelly, 38 for Cornelio, 27 for Haynes and Rich will go to Marks, 9 for Danaher, 7 for Haynes and Iden, tackles 8 for Cornelio, hit-outs 38 for Flynn, 34 for McInerney, 6 for Danaher, 3 for Hogan and Himmelberg, 1 for Hipwood. Now to stats. Wow. Didn't expect this when I was coming on to this. 415 disposals for the Giants, 317 for the Lions. So that's 98 plus disposals for the Giants. But this is the big stat, 220 to 208 kicks. So relatively even there, 195 to 109 handballs. Must have overused their handballs, the Giants. I did hear something about that, which they were overusing handballs. That's a big win for handballs. And I mean, yeah, it really depends because, I mean, if you cough up most of those handballs, it is dangerous. So, yeah, it really depends what you do with the footy as well. You can get it a certain amount of times, and that's one thing. What you do with it is the next. So the Lions won all aspects of clearances as well. Let's see, anything else? 12 to 15 marks inside 50 in favour of the Lions. The Lions did lead for the whole game. And, yeah, they were definitely the better of the sides. Lions, much more classy, despite the Giants showing some real good tough abilities and hanging in the game. The Lions got over by 21 points. Alright, so it's been a pretty good round of footy so far. Geelong and Sydney, the grand final rematch is about to kick off. And then, yeah, Sunday's footy action, Hawthorn versus Adelaide, Carlton versus St Kilda, definitely the big one of the three, and then Gold Coast versus North. But 3 pretty interesting games, though. They do really come as danger games for most clubs. But, yeah, it's very interesting. There definitely could be some upsets in this block of footy right here. And then, of course, we note the traditional Anzac fixtures, Melbourne versus Richmond and Collingwood versus Essendon, should be absolute belters for the rest of round number 6. And now to the ladder as well right now. The Lions, yes, this is live. Brisbane are in 4th after that win, with plenty of teams on 16. However, again, teams like St Kilda, Essendon, Collingwood are still yet to play. And then, yeah, down here as well, there's some teams like the Crows, the Demons, the Swans, and the Blues, which can still easily join that bunch of teams up on 16. But again, though, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these sides which are already on 16, still yet to play a game. And then here is the lower end of the ladder as well. Alright, well, it's been a good start to round number 6. Thank you guys. It was so nice watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. See you guys never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys. It was Martin's Bye everyone. Flame Footy out.